Right, and the military code.
We do it for them.
The military code that you mentioned is also important because there was a Supreme Court ruling in 1974, Parker versus Levy, which talks about the way the First Amendment applies to people who are in the military. So there are different sort of responsibilities to be had when you're in the military, and how the First Amendment would apply to you is slightly different than how it would to a civilian.
Actually, that's a very good point, but it's not even slightly. I mean, in Parker versus Levy, and it was an 8-0 decision. Somebody didn't vote. I don't know why it was, but came down and made it clear that once you put the uniform on, your the rights that you have in the First Amendment are severely truncated, because the compelling governmental interest is not what it is for me as a civilian civil rights activist or the rest of civilian America, which is to give us as much as we can get. It's focused on maximizing the lethality of our military so that indeed it can protect the full panoply of constitutional rights for the rest of us civilians. How do you do that? You buttress and you validate good order, morale, discipline, and unit cohesion. And so the concept is that you wear the uniform, you don't get to have the same rights of the First Amendment, all the aspects of it that civilians get. And that is something that is still very, very good case law. And yet, we're facing this incredible quagmire where we've been fighting, as I described it before, Christian nationalism is part of the very fabric of the Department of Defense. The last speech that President Eisenhower gave, this is to this day his most well-known one, his farewell speech, where he warned Talia, America and the world, about the so-called military-industrial complex. What we fight here at the Military Religious Freedom Foundation with laser-like precision is a fundamentalist Christian parachurch, congressional, corporate, military proselytizing complex. There are 36, maybe even more, parachurch organizations that, again, run rampant, pell-mell through our U.S. military. The military's approved solution is, again, this concept of weaponized Christianity is the best way to go and the best way to advance. And Project 2025 opens the door for that. It talks about auditing the classes at West Point, at the Air Force Academy, which is my alma mater and the alma mater of 3 of my kids, at Annapolis, and the other U.S. service academies like the U.S. Maritime Academy and the U.S. Coast Guard Academy, to make sure that we rid itself of any Marxist doctrines, like diversity, equity, and inclusion, critical race theory, any of that stuff. That has to go. If you're transsexual, you have absolutely no right to be in the U.S. military. It destroys LGBTQIA plus rights, and it once again fosters a climate of complete denial for reproductive rights for women, which is the worst type of misogyny. This is real, everybody. If you're watching the interview, it's not some pie. I'm trying to calm down about this. It's not some dream that isn't really happening. If you don't know what Mein Kampf is, and something that was the book that Hitler wrote in prison, and that became his Bible, if you will, his manifesto for Nazi Germany.